Hi everybody, Tracy Brown, and it is Friday. If you're listening to this live on Friday, well, happy Friday. If it's afternoon for me, it might be Saturday morning for you if you're on the other side of the world. I'm really sorry I've missed the last 2 days. I had lots of plans. Actually, I had my brain's been really working this week around some things that have come to me that I really want to talk about, but it took me 2 days in between, so I'm so sorry. So next week we will be, I think, daily, because I've got some good stuff that I want to share. But I thought I would end the week on a note of how do we know if we're accurately feeling signals of hunger and fullness. So something that I find is really, really, really common. I'm talking 90% of the time common when people come to me and I look at their food and we start talking about what's a typical day, what's a day they feel like they were eating well, quotes, eating well, a day they feel like they're eating bad, quotes. And what I find is probably 95% of the time when people are feeling that they're overeating, they're not. And that's why the signals and why there's a disconnect between like what we think is enough food and what feels like enough food. That's why the wires are a little frayed, and it's not that the connection's not there, it's just that we are so used to overriding it. And the main reason we're used to overriding it is because if you have any history of dieting, food restricting, following food rules, counting points, macros, calories, grams, whatever, we are so used to being in our heads about what should be enough, what I should be doing, that we feel more the emotional weight of all those rules and all those fears about breaking the rules, or all those fears about, oh my gosh, what if I break the rules and how do I fix it, or how do I make up for it? And so what I find is a client will come to me and say, yeah, I binge and there's emotional eating here and here and here. And I ask, well, where is that? And every single time they're like, well, it felt like a lot. And I'm like, yeah, I believe you. I know that it feels like a lot, but what I'm seeing here, this isn't a lot of food. But it's something that maybe it feels like they're not supposed to eat that much at that time of day, or it's the wrong food to be eating that time of day, or the wrong amount to be eating of that food at that time of day. There can be all kinds of configurations of which we have really strong feelings and beliefs about what we're eating. And so that can have us misjudge how much we're actually eating and to know those signals accurately. So what I'm finding is that most of the time I'm asking people to eat more because the signals aren't accurate. Or better yet, we're so used to overriding it and eating by the clock or whatever. But if you're struggling, and whether you work with me or not, if you're struggling to know, am I eating enough, or is this too much, or am I actually hungry? Basically, I want you to eat a couple more bites, or a couple more of something, or another half of something, to feel more, to listen more, to get some feedback about what you're doing, to see if that's enough. So thank you for whoever's just joining right now. I've been talking about the first step in getting our signals, our hunger and fullness signals, more accurate. Sorry, it's getting really bright and sunny in here, which is not a bad thing, but I can't see that great. So the first step in getting our signals of hunger and fullness more accurate is going to be making sure we're eating enough. Always, always, always. If we're not eating enough, then we're probably not getting accurate signals of hunger and fullness, and it makes us start to doubt ourselves. Like, well, I just ate something, shouldn't I be full? And that's way more than I typically would have eaten if I was on a diet. Like, it must be overeating, or it must be too much. And I want to have you pause for a second and say, well, how do you know? And who says? And where's that coming from? Where's that coming from that you eating the toast with your breakfast is too much? Are you actually breaking a food rule, or is your body actually saying it's too much? So, sorry, just going to move here a little bit to try to get that sun. Here we go. Okay. So that's the first step to knowing if you're having accurate signals of hunger and fullness. So most people, what they want to do is cut short and say, well, I'm not sure if that's enough, so I'll stop. And I'm asking you to do the opposite, which is you're not sure, and in as attuned, compassionate way as possible, let's try a few more bites and see what more feedback you can get, because it's really important to start to make a log, whether a mental log or get out a sheet of paper and a pen, and make note of your food rules and make note of the evidence of which, how do you know if you're eating enough? Well, make some lists. Like, how did it feel to eat this much food or a certain amount of food? And what feedback are you getting that you can actually trust your body? It's super important. I'm going to make a total other video about that. But I want you to be able to start making a list of all the ways in which you can trust your body. Or all the ways that you have listened and you trusted that and it turned out that it was helpful for you. Okay? And so, again, step number 1 is, if you're not sure if you're eating enough, test it out. See if you could actually eat more. I'm not talking about another full bowl of cereal, which that may be exactly what you need, and I implore you to give yourself permission to try that. Or it could be, gosh, I'm really scared to eat another portion of this, but I could eat 2 more bites. Well, great. Start there. And those of you who are listening, and I promised I was going to do a video on binge eating, and I am. That's going to come either this weekend or Monday. I promise. That's what my plan is. If you're on the opposite side, and I don't really know if I'm hungry or not, is this emotion? Check in with that. Do you notice any hunger? Does it feel bottom down, like below the neck down physiologic? Does it feel like mouth hunger, like Janine Roth would suggest? If you're not sure, and you don't feel like you're in this place of a lot of, I feel really like chomping at the bit to eat or compulsion, if it feels that way, take a break. Go call a friend, pet a dog, wash your hands, clean out the silverware drawer, do something for 5 minutes, and come back to that. You still might want to eat, and that's totally okay. But if you're like, I'm really not sure, and my habit is to actually eat when I'm not for sure, I don't want to keep doing that, that's totally legitimate. But if you take a break and you're still not sure, I would ask you to go back, and maybe you need to eat a bite of something and just get more clarity. A bite is not going to hurt anybody either way, and so I want you to trust yourself with that. If it feels like I can't trust myself with that, again, take a break, do something very nourishing in a way besides with using food, and then come back to it. All right? So anything else I would say about the first steps to making sure your signals are accurate? If you're pretty sure and you've gotten either feedback from professionals like me, or you're feeling like, yeah, I am eating enough, I can tell, and you're still struggling to trust your signals of hunger and fullness, start to ask yourself, well, what is making me not trust myself? And the common answers that I hear from people, and you might want to write some of this stuff down or come back and listen to this again and make a list. Well, what makes me not trust myself? The signals feel pretty good. Like, I'm eating when I'm hungry, and I even know when I'm eating out of boredom, or I know what it feels like to eat because I'm stressed. I know what that feels like. That feels like a little overfull, or it feels like kind of eating when I'm not that hungry, or I could take it or leave it, but I eat anyway. Is then to start to ask yourself, okay, what is it that I'm not trusting about this, that I want to keep going? And it's like, well, no, maybe you totally trust your signals. It's just that there's an override because of how you feel. So now you have a choice to look into that more deeply. Try some other things first. If you find yourself not wanting to try the things, again, part of the process. It's totally fine. And if you're not able to work through that on your own, and you need some help with it, I definitely encourage you to do that. So there's lots of resources, myself included, or other resources, my free chart and stuff on my website, other people's stuff. Highly recommend you do that. So if it's not a trust issue, it's I don't really know if I'm ready to do something different, or I don't know what to do, then acknowledge that in yourself. That's really, really important to acknowledge. Like, I know that I'm still eating this snack right after work because I don't really know how to settle myself, or I don't know how to transition from work to home or school to home. Acknowledge it. Like, I'm having a hard time with transitions, and be curious about that. Well, where did that come from that I have a hard time with transitions? Or how long has that been there? Or when do I remember that? And what do I need? And that's the direction I would go with that. And again, if you're having a hard time discerning, think about what more you might need about that, or if you need more help with that. So anyway, this short video was just about the first step. So if you're struggling with trust, it may be that you're not eating enough and your signals aren't accurate enough yet, and it's super, super common. Again, I would say 90% of the time when people come to me and they're feeling like that they're overeating, they're always really surprised, but then not surprised when I tell them that they're probably not eating enough, which is why you're having a hard time getting your bearings on if intuitive eating even works for me. Like, if you're not thinking it works, and because you feel like your eating's all over the place, if it's still got some chaos, that means that you could be under eating still. Or we need some more tools, basically, to figure out what's going on. What is causing the chaos and what the function of that is, and all that. So thank you, whoever's watching this right now. I'm so happy you showed up and gave me some time to talk about what might be up for you. If you have any questions, please put them down here in the box and tag me, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you have the best I can. And I hope you have a good weekend. Please. I always take, this is toward the end of my Fridays. I like to remind people, take some time to figure out what will be nourishing for you for the weekend, what would feel good, and take some time to figure out what's my week looking like next week, and how do I best prepare myself to get satisfied food-wise for the week. So I'm going to start doing that more and more to give you that gentle reminder. Maybe you don't get your food supply every Friday, Saturday, like you don't have a routine maybe, but for a lot of us, we do a little bit, hopefully, of gentle planning to get our needs met, possibly on the weekends. It's kind of typical, at least maybe for a lot of us, how we grew up. But if it's not, ignore that. But yeah, I really encourage you to do something nourishing in all the ways for yourself for the weekend, and then be thinking about how that might feel and how that might carry over into your next week. So thank you so much for coming and joining, and I'm around, so please ask questions if you have them. Thank you so much. Take care.